Hi, Susie Homesteader of the Rockies, and welcome to the Susie Homesteader channel. And today we're going to talk about spring cleaning, because it's just about that time of year where we're going to start our spring cleaning. And out here in the Rockies, I do some major spring cleaning, so we're not going to talk about just vacuuming and dusting and disinfecting your home, because everybody kind of knows how to do that. We're going to talk about some bigger, larger scale cleaning projects that a lot of you might not even think about. And I'll also have a list for you on my website, Susie Homesteader of the Rockies, of some great cleaning products that I like to kind of keep around the house. And if you don't have them in the house, you know, they're easy to go get at the hardware store, you know, a home improvement store, grocery store, anything like that. But all good things that you generally will have sitting around that you might not thought of using for cleaning as well. So hopefully you saw my other video that I did on Mom's Anti-Sick Kit, and that discusses really just how to keep yourself clean and the people in your home clean, which is really kind of the first place you're going to have to start, because anything that enters your home, like a person or an animal, is half of the problem. And another thing to think about is if you have a wood stove in your house, a better time to start your spring cleaning is when you're done burning in your wood stove. And that's just because the wood stoves create so much ash and dust, and you also want to clean out your wood stove anyway, which I do have a video on how to clean out your wood stove. So I like to start my spring cleaning when I'm done using my wood stove, for starters, because that kind of helps me out for the rest of the year until I start burning again. And then, as I said, we're going to talk about some larger scale cleaning. Other than dusting and vacuuming and disinfecting, we're looking for some major issues in your house, which could be molds, bacterias, of course germs, viruses, you know, and even parasites if you have animals coming in your house, pets, you know, and or rodents, you know, or anything else that might sneak in your house. So there's a lot of nasty things to consider that might be in your house that either people are bringing in, or pets, or it's just possibly in your air, or it's in your water, or it's on some surface in your house, or it could even be in the dust, you know, like dust mites. So lots of places that all these things can lurk. And like I said, lots of very simple products you can use and keep on hand to kind of keep on top of that. So as I said, hopefully you saw my other video on Mom's Anti-Sick Kit, which starts with just keeping the people in your house clean, and then I'll have another one for you on environmental hazards after this, which is kind of a follow-up to what we're talking about today, and that discusses some of the major toxins that you may not have considered that are possibly in your home, outside your home, again, in the air, in your water, in your soil, and maybe just particularly the environment or the location or the state that you live in. So we'll talk about that in another video, because that's an even larger scale list to consider that you might want to check off depending on where you've chosen to move or where you're already living. So lots of things to think about, but we'll start today with just talking about inside your home. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the air in your house, and that starts to take into consideration all kinds of airborne germs, certainly molds, viruses that are also airborne, and toxins, and danders, and lots of things that can create allergies for people that are particularly allergic to things. And I did talk about that in my other video as well. Just keeping some of the allergens out of your house, and a lot of that had to do with just having less carpeting and less linens and less things that attract or hold on to those kind of allergens. You know, if you have ceiling fans in your house, or obviously some kind of ventilation system, that's the best way to continually ventilate your house. Even in the winter time, you know, try and keep some windows cracked. But one of my favorite products that I like to use for cleaning out the air is my eucalyptus oil, which again I talk about in my mom's anti-stick kit. You know, if you can burn that on a wood stove or just a pot on the stove, or even in vaporizers or humidifiers, this eucalyptus oil is great because it is an antiseptic in one of the essential oils. You can also use tea tree oil. That's another great essential oil for cleaning. Grapefruit oil, lemon oil, you know, all the citrus and acid-based essential oils are great for cleaning also. But the eucalyptus oil is probably one of my favorites. It is strong, but it does work for cleaning out the air. So I have that on my kettle, on my wood stove, all winter long. And then, of course, if you have something more like a furnace that you're running in your house, you know, change the filters in that whenever, you know, the manufacturer recommends. Air conditioners, the same thing. That's also bringing in dirt and dust. So clean those filters. Sometimes there's trays and vents that are in those air conditioners that are hiding that you want to clean out. Air purifiers and ionizers that you may have in your home, which of course I have all of these. Clean out those filters whenever it suggests or recommends that you do. Fans, ceiling fans, dryer vents, all things you can clean out with a vacuum. You know, obviously your wood stoves or chimneys, the blowers that are on there are also putting more dirt and dust into your home. And I did do a video on how to clean out your wood stove, which you can look up. And that's just specific to wood stoves and how to clean them. But again, those are super important in terms of your air quality. And then just things like vacuum bags that might be sitting in your house that are containing all kinds of allergens and maybe pollens and dust mites and other nasty stuff that when you turn that vacuum back on, might just blow back into the house again. So obviously replace your vacuum bags whenever you have to, unless you have a vacuum system that does not have a bag and it's like a water system, which is what I have, and then you're replacing the water instead of the bag. But anything, you know, again, where air is circulated, and those things, you know, have to be cleaned or changed or disinfected also. So more things to think about. But there's a couple things that you may want to start with outside in terms of cleaning your water before you even start thinking about the water inside your house. And one of those things has to do with whether you have a private well or you have a city or a county well. So if you have a private well, you are able to bleach your own well or disinfect your own well. And one of the best ways to do that is just plain old bleach. And now you will have to spend a lot of time flushing out your water system after you do some of this bleach. And you can get online and it'll tell you exactly how much bleach to put in and how long to run your water after you've done that, especially in your home and in your faucets. But generally, if you can bleach out your well or disinfect your well about, you know, every 3 to 5 years, that's the idea. And particularly if you have livestock that are drinking out of troughs or other hydrants that are connected to your main well, because then you're starting to consider E. coli and Giardia and some other viruses and such that you can get from your livestock or from your animals. So, you know, if you have hoses left in bowls or troughs or anything like that, that can all backtrack into your well from animals and create quite a bit of bacteria in there. So whether you have animals, you know, drinking out of hydrants, your hydrants or not, it's still a good idea to kind of bleach your well every 3 to 5 years. And again, get online and get into details about how you actually do that process. But that is something I do with my private well. And if you have a city or county water system, you know, the best thing to do is just go get your water tested through the county and find out what's in it. And then discuss it with them as to what they need to do with the water system, if you find anything. And then, of course, you also have a septic system outside, which a lot of people don't think about because it's all hiding underground. But a septic system actually requires a good bacteria to break down some of the sludge and the muck that gets stuck on the bottom of a septic tank And if sometimes that doesn't get broken up enough or broken down enough by good bacteria, then your pumps are working harder and your septic system can fail and you have all kinds of problems. So you're not actually cleaning your septic system. What you want to do is actually add a product where you're adding bacteria. It's a good bacteria to your septic system. This brand is just called Robic, but there's Rid-X, and there's all kinds of different brands out there on the market that you can use sometimes monthly, sometimes quarterly in your septic system. And that's really, again, in a weird way, cleaning your septic system, which is something you also want to consider that not a lot of people think about. And then, of course, if you have hot tubs or pools or anything else outdoors that needs to be chlorinated, that's something I have to do, all year long because we have both of those. And, of course, that's, the chlorine is killing any kind of bacteria in the water. There's another, place for bacteria to breed, especially hot tubs. There's some real all-natural products that you can use for hot tubs that I do use as opposed to bromines or chlorines because my kids are sensitive to those. But you can get those online as well, kind of an all-natural citrus-based hot tub cleaner, which is one of the ones that I like. And then, with pools, there's, we use a saltwater generator, which is a form of chlorine, but, a little less on the chemicals. But still, chlorinating and disinfecting the water and not allowing algae and other things to continue to grow in your pool water. So then, of course, that kind of goes into fountains and ponds that you might have outside. If you have fish or any kind of living aquatic system in a pond, obviously you're not going to be able to use bleaches or chlorines or anything like that, but they do sell barley balls and all kinds of other all-natural pond and fountain cleaning products that you can look up without killing your aquatic critters that you might have in those. And then starting to head back indoors again, you also have if you have a water softener system or a water filtration system that works through your home, then you're going to have to change those filters in the filtration system. And you also actually want to clean out your salt tank, your water softener tank that's used that holds the salt. Because if you've ever gotten to the bottom of that water softener in salt and noticed it smells like rotten eggs or something really nasty, that's a sign that there's too much sulfur building up in that. And you want to dump out that basin and then wipe that out with some bleach and start all over with your salt. So there are places even in your water softener system, if you have one, that need to be disinfected as well. And then, faucet heads that you have on your sinks, if they have little filters on them, those can get clogged and calcified and also hold bacteria too, especially in the kitchen or the bathrooms, where you have the filter heads that you can actually remove and clean out. One of the products that I always keep at the house is the CLR, and that just stands for calcium, lime, and rust. Those aren't bacteria, those are just hard mineral deposits. But if those clog up any of the screens that you have on your faucet heads or any other system, in your house, this is one of the best things I've used to try and just break that off. So if you can take those off, actually take them off the end of the faucet there and soak them in this, then you don't have to worry about a bunch of other stuff getting clogged up in there either. So that's a great one for getting rid of, as I said, calcium, lime, or rust deposits, or hard mineral deposits that the water will carry through all the way into the faucet head itself. And then, of course, if you have a water dispenser set up in your refrigerator, an ice maker, a water dispenser in your refrigerator, there's more water, there's more possibilities for bacterias going into your ice and your water. So you definitely want to dump out your ice trays every so often. Germs can actually stay frozen, in ice, believe it or not. And then, through the water dispenser as well, Hopefully, you're able to clean the ends of that off somehow so things just don't get backed up in there. So again, the CLR is a good one for that. And then anything else you have water in, like a humidifier in your home, or dehumidifiers, anything where it's, again, holding water. And those are places where you're going to either change the filters or you're going to clean out the reservoirs. I noticed in the bottom of my humidifiers, I get kind of like a red mold that sits in the bottom of those. So sometimes you have to completely dump out those humidifiers and once again disinfect those with a bleach or some other disinfectant and start all over again. So bottom line is, if you have water anywhere, coming into your home or in the house or outside the house, that's always a breeding area for bacterias and certainly mold. And then other than water and airborne germs, you're also just going to have surface germs. So sometimes just dusting, regular old dusting, which is actually really a bad idea because all you're really doing is just recirculating the dust in your house. What you really want to do is use something more like a cloth. With something like either you can use hydrogen peroxide. That's a great one. These are things you can find in your bathroom as opposed to your kitchen. Rubbing alcohol. That's another great one for disinfecting surfaces. And again, bleach, just in small amounts because, that one is a little tough to breathe if you use too much of that. But either one of these are great for cleaning surfaces. Again, I mentioned the lemon juice, or actually lemon juice and lemon essential oils and grapefruit oils are great for cleaning surfaces and dusting. Toilets, sinks, showers, they make some great bathroom disinfectants for that. Trash cans, and don't forget things like diaper bins, stuff that we don't really want to clean. But, you do have to every once in a while take those trash cans outside and hose them out and spray them or disinfect them or whatever you got to do. And then another thing we don't think about with bathrooms and surfaces is your toothbrushes. Those are huge places for germs, and I talked about that in my anti-sick kit video. They do make a toothbrush sanitizer that involves the blue light for sanitizing, which, lots of people use that in different industries, but they make one for at home. They make them for your toothbrushes, they make them for your sponges, they make them for even your cell phones now. And so those are all great little gadgets that you can buy. You can find them on the internet to disinfect things that, again, you don't normally think about. For your toothbrushes, if you don't have any of that or you don't want to soak those in some rubbing alcohol once in a while, you can put them in the dishwasher or you can throw them out and start all over. So again, those are places where surface germs are lurking, and then we forget about that. And then, even your washing machines. I've had washing machines that held mold in them. It's probably just a bad model, but try and bleach out, if you're not using bleach, bleach out your washing machines every once in a while. I do talk about how using too much bleach for cleaning, in particular, in your home is definitely not a good idea for your septic systems. And that's just because some of these disinfectants will actually kill that good bacteria that you need in your septic system. So, don't overdo it with the bleach, or any of these products that are super acidic or, disinfectant, because it will kill it eventually all goes into the septic system and it's going to kill some of that good bacteria. So I don't really use bleach unless I have to, because that's really kind of a big no-no with the septic systems. But bleach is good, and you're going to use that probably in your laundry anyway. Just try not to use too much of it. But you can certainly bleach out your washing machines without any clothes in them. And then, stuff like your dryers. You definitely want to check your dryer vents as well. That kind of goes back into the air. Make sure they're not clogged. And then, other than the lint screens, make sure the whole dryer vent hose itself is not plugged up with a bunch of lint, because again, that can become a big problem too. And then stuff for your kitchen. Things you'll have sitting around already are going to be things like baking soda. That's a great abrasive that you can just pour onto a sponge or make a paste out of if you're looking for kind of a light-duty abrasive. So baking soda is a great one for cleaning. Vinegar you're probably going to have in your kitchen. That's another great one. Distilled white vinegar for cleaning as a disinfectant. I use that one in my dishwasher quite a bit because that breaks down a lot of the calcium in there that gets clogged up in your dishwashers. So that's a good one to run through your dishwasher cycle. It's also a good one for cleaning out your appliances, and then things like can openers, which a lot of us forget to take off that knife part of the can opener and either throw it in the dishwasher or soak it in some vinegar. So can opener, the actual opener part, we tend to forget about because it's sitting on the can opener. And then just the obvious appliances, those are all great for cleaning your appliances in your kitchen. Don't forget about that really nasty pan that they stick underneath the refrigerator to catch whatever. But if you've ever pulled that out once in a while, that's pretty scary. So if you forgot about that pan, that little tray that they stick under most refrigerators, get that one out, and you might even have to hose that one out outside. Back to sponges. Sponges are like the number one place for bacteria and germs. I do have that disinfecting box or sanitizing box that I put my sponge in that you can also buy. But throw out your sponges every so often. They're not that expensive. Don't try and stick them in the dishwasher or anything like that. Just throw them out. I do that monthly, or more, depending on how many dishes I'm doing. So think about just throwing out your sponges, on a schedule for the kitchen or the ones that you're using to clean your bathrooms. And then just stuff like dish towels and mats, any other kind of linen that you might have in a kitchen. Dish towels are number one, because everybody's using those for wiping off their hands. So throw those in the washer as much as you can. Replace them, clean them, do whatever you got to do. But just stuff that we forget about just because we're using it nonstop. Cell phones, tablets, keyboards, laptops, other surfaces, which I also talk about in some of my other videos, that we really forget. That's just nonstop being touched, especially cell phones. And I did mention they make a box that you can actually sanitize your cell phone in now, or just go get a little Lysol. And this is the one I use for anything that can't really, be wiped too hard. So I have Lysol in 5 different places in the house. So if you can just spray those cell phones, refrigerator handles, TV remotes, anything you can think of that's just being touched nonstop. Lysol is definitely the ticket for that. And you just spray it on there, do it as often as you can without soaking those devices too much. And the Lysol, like I said, that's a great one. Touch screens, all that stuff. And this just leaves a little bit of a mist on there that does kill, what does it say, 99.9% of viruses and bacteria. So that's a great one to have. Also, especially with pets and things that you're a little more worried about things in terms of being toxic for those things. Good old Dawn dish soap or just some Simple Green, kind of an organic cleaner, are nice to have, again, in terms of pets and stuff. If you're concerned about any of the products you're using being toxic for them, just keep these around because you can use these on everything. And then, that starts to talk about rodents. So, no matter how many pets I have a Jack Russell that is born to kill mice, and she does it, and pack rats and whatever other rodent you have in the house. They're all doing their jobs, but you'll still get a mouse in the house. I don't care what happens. Most of mine come right through my dog door. So, rodents are huge carriers for lots of bad things. And so we just set these little plastic traps all over the place, and it's a little more humane than some of the other methods. And certain times of the year, especially it's spring here, everything's trying to come in the house. So, make sure you always have a bunch of these available, because one mouse in your house can do a ton of damage. They can get the bathroom drawers, they can get your kitchen cabinets, your pots, your pans, your pantries, you name it. So, and then if you start getting into pack rats, that's another story. But they can do an amazing amount of damage in terms of, how long you're going to have to spend cleaning up after them. So, mouse traps, you just got to have them, along with other little spider traps and little things that creep into your house, like silverfish that get in the cabinets no matter how clean you are. Dust mites, which most people are kind of familiar with, so as long as you're vacuuming, you pretty much got that covered. There's bed bugs, which starts getting into some of the really little nasty things. That's a whole nother subject. But there's lots of parasites, and rodents that'll enter your house that you might not even be aware of. So, again, besides the traps, you're doing a lot of washing of linens and bedding and anything else in your house, and certainly washing those in a super hot cycle. And if you really honestly think you have bed bugs, they do make a product just for that. But most of it involves just washing your linens as often as you need to. And that includes towels, of course, and bath mats, and sometimes you even have to wash or dry clean your curtains, or steam clean your rugs, because all that stuff hides in there. Clothing, I think we had ringworm once as a kid, and you have to wash everything, everything, and I think we got that from some kittens. So, ringworm's another one that it actually lives in soil and it lives on other animals. So if you wind up with something on yourself, such as a ringworm, then you're washing your clothing as well. So, obviously staying on top of keeping all your linens as clean and disinfected as possible. Also, dogs and pets bring in all kinds of good stuff into your home. Other than fleas, if you live in an area where you have fleas, we don't actually have. Well, we do have fleas in the Rocky Mountains, but I've never seen one in any of my dogs. They're just very minimal because it's too cold here. But fleas are a pretty bad one. That get brought into your home, mites, ear mites, and that kind of stuff that pets have, and certainly worms, intestinal parasites. So we make sure from the cat to the ponies that everything gets wormed twice a year. You do have to use a pretty high quality wormer, or it won't get all of them. A lot of the home remedy wormers that you might look up, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But it is super important to make sure you're worming your animals at least in the spring and the fall, or whenever it's really wet wherever you live. And then if you have fleas, they have powders and collars, and ear mites, they have solutions for that. But not only the animals themselves bringing in parasites possibly into your house, but you'll also have to wash and disinfect all their bedding, any mats or areas that they sleep, and just washing that all in super hot water. So other than the rodents and the mice, you have to certainly consider your cats and dogs, or any animal that is entering your house is bringing more fun things into your home. Your animal shelters, if you have more of a ranch style life, can have all kinds of diseases. That's another bigger subject. But animal shelters and areas are all places for rodents and bugs and mold to breed. Sheds, tack sheds, kind of the same thing. Porches and gutters, even those with the leaf mold and the molds that can get trapped in there from the water, are certainly something to clean out. Again, we talked about trash cans, but even your outside trash cans, you got maggots, you got all kinds of disgusting stuff. You got to hose those out every once in a while. And then, things like even brush piles that we make here at the house, because we do live in a wooded area. Those brush piles contain bugs, that can kill your trees. Weeds, obviously, you want to burn those weed piles as fast as you can so they can't blow away. And more rodents. Rodents hide in the trash. They hide in the burn piles. So all that stuff at some point in time just needs to be cleaned out or gone outside your house. Do not forget about your vehicles, because I can tell you I've had French fries in my car that probably could have walked out on their own. So we have 1 or 2 vehicles that the mice get in. For some reason, my Suburban, I've never had a mouse in there. So it just depends on how your car or your truck is designed. But you get mice feces in there. Spiders, all kinds of pretty, nasty stuff, as well as molds and germs, and rodents that you're going to get in your vehicles too. Pack rats are a huge one out here. In the wintertime, they get in underneath the hood, and they just destroy your vehicles. They eat wires, they take out all the shiny stuff. They are so destructive, it's ridiculous. So, you're setting traps again or doing whatever you got to do to keep them from eventually getting into your vehicle, which they try and do also. Your purse, your wallets, your lunch boxes, your backpacks, all things that get touched and used and set down non-stop that we also forget to clean. A company called ProLab puts out all kinds of great kind of at-home test kits. There's a test kit for radon in your home, radon gas, lead and paint, carbon monoxide. There's a mold test kit. There's quite a few, but if you go online and you just look up ProLab test kits, they'll have a whole list of things for you that you can do by yourself. And then things like water, you may want to get tested with your county or your city. If you're on a city well, or if you're on a private well, you can get both of those tested if you bring your water samples in. You can also bring your soil samples into the county and have those tested if you don't want to do them by yourself. And those tests are just usually a little bit more extensive. So if you have some serious concerns, that might be a better way to go than just the quick at-home tests. I did have my home tested for radon because in this part of the Rockies, uranium is pretty high in a lot of areas, and I'm in one of those areas. So I did go to the county and bring them a water sample, and I did get some test results back that I was not totally happy with in terms of the radon count that we have at our home. But that's another story, and there's ways to reverse some of that as well, but that's a whole nother video. But it is important, like I said, wherever you're living, to at least get your water and your soil tested. And again, we'll talk about that more in my bigger video about environmental hazards. And then, you just want to be careful about any kind of the products that we'll talk about in terms of combining them and creating some really caustic solutions. So, they may be on the milder side of products, but if you combine them wrong, they can become very caustic and very unsafe. So don't try to be the mad scientist at home and combine too many things that you're not sure about. Even something like bleach, is pretty hard to breathe in. So if you're concerned about your breathing, or you have asthma, or any kind of sensitivity to any of these chemicals, then I would definitely suggest using a face mask while you're cleaning, and possibly rubber gloves. So if you are sensitive to that kind of stuff, please keep that into consideration. And some of these are acids and abrasives and some pretty good disinfectants, which, is kind of what we're looking for in terms of wiping out some of, these more toxic things that you might have in your home. So again, just kind of be careful about combining those things. And then, go buy some of the test kits. And start from there if you think you might have some things going on in your house that, just aren't right. So I think we kind of covered just about every area. If I forgot something, please let me know. Of course, beyond just your home and the things that enter your home. You know, you certainly have to consider the people in your home being clean, hopefully vaccinated, and they have healthy habits and good hygiene, and they're all using lots of hand sanitizer. So other than what might already be in your home, certainly consider everything that's entering your home, because that's just adding to your spring cleaning list. So again, if you have any questions, come and see me on my website, Susie Homesteader of the Rockies, and look for another video that I'll have out for you, as I talked about environmental hazards and toxins, which will take this video up to the next level. So I will see you then. Bye-bye. So let's get started. Subscribe to the Susie Homesteader channel, and we'll see you there. Bye-bye.